So it looks like Wizards of the Coast has got themselves embroiled in yet another lawsuit. This one could actually lead to damages of $10 million. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. And it's an interesting day to be talking about Magic the Gathering right now. I mean, when has it not been an interesting day lately? It seems like stuff is popping off all over the place. But we are here today to talk about legal things. So before we dive right in, here is my disclaimer. Clearly, I am no lawyer, right? Understand, I am no lawyer. I'm just some dummy on the internet. So if you watched yesterday's video, you might have heard me mention that there's like a 20 some odd page legal document that we might have taken a look at in the live stream yesterday. But we didn't end up doing that because, in all honesty, when you actually look at the legal documentation, it's so boring and so repetitive. And I mean, I understand why. You got to make sure you cross all your T's and dot all your I's. You're dealing with like big money and contracts and all this sort of insanity. So just bear in mind, I'm just here to share my opinions, and some of the information that I give may not, there may be some inaccuracy due to me not understanding what it is that I read. So I'm going to try and break this down in very generalized terms. One of the things you're going to need to know is that this specifically revolves around the Dungeons and Dragons Dragonlance novel. So we're not talking about a lawsuit that's built on Magic the Gathering, unlike the previous lawsuits that we've talked about. The Mythic Edition lawsuit, I think, was the most recent one we dealt with. Wizards have been sued by a bunch of people, including their own judges, right? So what's going on here is two of the biggest names in like fantasy writing. Like if you look at the names down here, right? You got Weiss and Hickman, okay? Now, they have created some of the most memorable fantasy books in history, in terms of like a gigantic world that has a ton of different characters and novels that are, I believe some of the Dragonlance novels were written by people other than these two, but as far as I'm concerned, they're like the creators and stewards of Dragonlance. And I am a huge Dragonlance fan, my friends. I mean, I remember when I was a little boy going down to the used bookshop, and like I stumbled on one of these three novels. The first one I found, which one was it? It was it was this one right here, actually. Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which is actually the first Dragonlance book ever. And this took me down a wonderful wormhole of fantasy novels as I just tore through all their different books. So for me, the fact that this you know what? Hold on. I'm getting a little side here. This lawsuit exists because originally what was going to happen is we were going to be getting more Dragonlance novels. And honestly, finding out that we were going to get more Dragonlance novels while finding out we're not going to get them now is a huge disappointment. I feel really let down. So there's a lawsuit that's put together by these two dudes, and looking at the lawsuits are wild to look at because it looks like one of these authors has an entire like limited liability corporation and the other is just represented as an individual. But that's just like an interesting little side note. So basically, I'm going to try and construct for you a rough timeline of how I understand it went down based on what's listed in those documents. Again, I really do feel the need to reiterate that I'm not making like official legal statements here, right? It's just some dummy who looked at, I'm just some dummy who's looked at the legal document, all right? So basically my understanding is that Weiss and Hickman approached Wizards of the Coast saying like, we want to make more Dragonlance novels. Like they essentially are the pinnacles of our career, and we wish to make something as a monument to this. You know what I mean? Like if you've read the Dragonlance novels, you know how good they are. And if you like fantasy and haven't read the Dragonlance novels, go and do it. You will not regret it. There's so many amazing characters in those storylines. But either way, it's a huge, like there's like 30 something Dragonlance books, I think. But we would be getting a series of, I think it was three additional novels. Now, Wizards of the Coast had particular like stipulations basically where it's like, okay, you guys want to do this project where you want to write these novels with our Dragonlance property. Because understand that even though Weiss and Hickman wrote the Dragonlance novels, the Dragonlance novels actually belonged to TSR. And if you're not familiar with what TSR is, that was the company that actually sold all the Dungeons and Dragons modules, books, all that stuff before Wizards of the Coast acquired them. It's really interesting when you take a look at what's happened overall, where Magic was originally designed as like a pickup game. It had even been like people had described it as designed to be played between like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and two of you get eaten by a dragon or something, and the rest of the party has to deal with whatever, and you guys can make new characters, but it's going to be a while before you can be inserted back into the campaign. So you got a little bit of downtime, or the DM's doing a side adventure with one little character's off in a dungeon, whatever it is. It's like you're a Dungeons and Dragons player. You got a little bit of free time while you're waiting to get back into the D&D action, so you just take some Magic decks, shuffle them up, and play real quick, whatever, with the same kind of flavor, right? So then Magic blows up so huge that they actually end up being able to acquire TSR and buy Dungeons and Dragons. So I've always found it fascinating that a game that felt like it was designed to be nestled into D&D actually owns all of D&D. So the Dragonlance novels, the Dragonlance world, all of its characters, all that intellectual property actually belongs to Wizards of the Coast because they got that all when they bought TSR. So for Weiss and Hickman, for somebody who says he's a big fan to mess up the names, they'll never see this video, but if you do, I'm sorry, forgive me, make a character about me. No. Anyhow, they don't own the property. So they have to get permission to use these. They can't just go out and make new Dragonlance novels, or Wizards could turn around and sue them, right? Like they can just be like, no, that's ours. Like, give us the money you made, shut it down, cease and desist style, right? That's my understanding of how things work. So they turn around, they go to Wizards and say, we want to make more Dragonlance novels. We want to continue on with this epic world. And Wizards agrees under a number of stipulations. Now, I don't know all of them. We're not going to get into all of them. But the major stipulation that really sticks out to me is that these two authors had to go out and find a publisher who would be willing to publish the book. So Wizards is basically like, all right, you write the book, you find somebody to publish it, you bring us the deal, we have the right to tell you to make any changes that we want. So basically what happens is they start with this deal. As far as I understand, an initial payment is made to the authors. Now, I'm not 100% clear about that, but as far as I understand, initial payment is made to the authors. They start making their way actually writing the novels. At the time of the lawsuit being filed, I believe the first novel is finished in its entirety. Now, how the process works is they write however much of the novel, either the whole thing or submit it in portions. But Wizards of the Coast has the right to come back and say, we want you to change certain things. We want you to add this. We want you to remove this. So, for example, one of the sticking points that had to be removed from the novel was something involving a love potion. Because for the majority of the time that fantasy has existed, nobody's really had a problem with love potions overall. But now there's this big outcry in particular locations like Twitter and things like that about how, it's immoral to have love potions and whatever. So basically Wizards went and said, okay, we're going to kind of step away from love potions. But I mean, that's still a recent thing. So they say, we don't want love potions in the novel. So the authors go, okay, and they take it out. And they make changes to names and other things. When Wizards comes along and says, we want a more diverse cast. Now, I'm not making this up. This part was mentioned in the lawsuit, specifically like talking about making the people more diverse and these sort of things. So they kept coming back with all of these different changes that were made. Every time they were told to make a change, the authors made the change. That's how this process works. So they can get final approval and actually release the novels, right? So this process is ongoing. And then you guys know everything that's happened with Magic recently, right? Where like multiple Magic artists, Wizards is disassociated from them for different reasons. There are like all kinds of things are popping up and kind of just blowing up in Wizards' face. You know what I mean? Like things haven't been going well for them from a PR perspective on a whole bunch of different angles. Related, honestly, it feels like mostly to Magic, but there is some crazy stuff going on in Dungeons and Dragons as well. Like, I'm not going to toss around names because I don't really know what's going on with this. Like, I only got hints of it from reading in the lawsuit, but it seems like there's some crazy stuff going on with Dungeons and Dragons as well. So they have their own like controversies and people like rising up and going, you need to change this, you need to get rid of this. And it's led to a number of changes in Dungeons and Dragons. But what the lawsuit alleges, according to what I was reading, is that essentially all of these like PR nightmares and all these problems kept popping up and kept popping up until it came to the attention actually of Hasbro. Instead of Wizard, Papa Hasbro's like, what are you doing? Kind of thing, right? So that scenario arises. And from that point, like, I don't know the exact time frame, but what they are alleging is that essentially what Wizards did was try and find a workaround where they could essentially cancel the contract without canceling the contract. So the contract has like stipulations for, I guess, breach of contract or like whatever kind of fulfillment. So basically, in like Wizards of the Coast decides that they just want to drop the Dragonlance thing. I guess maybe what happened was Hasbro looked at it and said, you know what, with everybody freaking out about everything and all the different ways that people get upset, we don't even want this product being made. So just end the project, cancel it. But if they just cancel the project, then they're going to owe these authors however much money as part of the contract, right? Any smart contract, you're going to make sure if you want to cancel this, we still get paid, right? Like we did all this work. And in some ways, again, the language on this like contract's insane to me. So it seems like Wizards almost didn't have the ability to cancel the contract in a lot of different ways. But what they did was they took advantage of the process that I explained to you, where the authors come along and say like, here's our draft. And then they look at the draft and go, okay, change X, Y, and Z. And they change X, Y, and Z, continue to write, and just keep progressively like doing this. So Wizards didn't send in the second payment to them that they were supposed to receive, as far as I understand it. They didn't send the second payment that they were contractually obligated to send to these authors after the first book was completed. And then during a random like phone meeting, I can't remember everyone who was assembled, but they basically said like there were the people in charge of making the decisions for the Dragonlance novel and their legal team over at Wizards or whatever. And the lawyer basically said, we're not going to give you any more notes or corrections for this. We're not going to make any more changes. And we're also not moving towards breach. So it's basically just saying, we are no longer going to let you move further down this process by just refusing to be a part of this back and forth process. So we're trying to get out of the contract and make this whole thing fall apart, essentially, and this is just my opinion, right? But essentially because they went and looked at it and go, okay, if we just end this, we're going to have to pay them out. If we breach the contract, they can sue us, right? That kind of thing. So why don't we just not give them any more changes? And then they can't go forwards with the book if we just don't do this feedback thing. And then just to state like, and also, by the way, we're not in breach. Seems like a crazy legal maneuver to me. I don't know. You know what I mean? I would really like to know what a genuine lawyer's opinion of this is, because the internet is full of just people's opinions. Just me talking yesterday about the fact that I would talk about the lawsuit had some people going, be careful, man, if you can't show the lawsuit plan. I'm like, well, that's public record. You totally can, but I'm not going to because it's boring. Oh my God, is it boring? So if you want me to encapsulate everything I said in like hopefully a tighter format, basically Wizards and the creators of the Dragonlance novels set up a big contract to create a set of 3 Dragonlance novels that we would get released in the next couple of years. And Wizards and these people obviously would both make a bunch of money. Wizards would get to sell the books and make the money. The authors would get paid. And it would be like a nice big capstone to the end of the Dragonlance kind of saga, right? Just finish it all off with these final books that we will probably never get to see, but who knows? It seems like the lawsuit is actually either aimed at getting Wizards to give them like up to $10 million in damages or to proceed with the contract as it was, you know? So I know this isn't technically Magic news, but I mean, it's the company that makes our Magic cards and they're embroiled in this lawsuit. And honestly, I figured that a bunch of you guys are probably like me and right into Dragonlance. So to me, my opinion is it seems like Wizards of the Coast pulling some shady stuff here, but at the end of the day, when it comes to like lawyers and legal contracts and everything, everything's so crazy that I can't be 100% certain. But it does seem to me that the creators of Dragonlance, these guys who wrote the stories, really, really got like just completely screwed over by this. You know what I mean? Like they put a bunch of time into writing these novels, like starting the first novel's apparently complete, and they can't, like, it's not like Weiss and Hickman can just go along and be like, you know what? We're just gonna have the publisher print these books anyways, because the publisher then would have to worry about Wizards of the Coast turning around and suing him. So they're basically, their hands are tied. Wizards is trying to be all tricky here, and I genuinely don't like it. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. If you want to, you can go and seek out the full thing. It's like 21 pages long. You can find information about it here or there. I'm pretty sure there's a link to the post on Reddit. I'm not 100%, but either way, if you want to go and read it for yourself, I don't recommend it. It was boring. I actually had to go back a few times and reread stuff because my brain like just tuned out. It was like, bro, you can read this if you want, but I'm going over here and thinking about noodles and ukuleles. And it's like, what? All right, let's do that. No, I'm trying to read this. Like, that's how it went for me. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I got some demo work done today, so that's why I made sure to record this video in advance, right? So, you know, whatever, man. We'll see if we're going to do a live stream tonight. If you like what I'm doing here, like, comment, subscribe. It's all fantastic for my channel. If you love what I'm doing, jump on my Patreon because money is what I use to stay alive. Thanks for being here, everybody. There's a link to my newest lore video up here on the screen. Check it out. Lore's fantastic. Thanks for coming by, everybody. See you later.